You're listening to the Live Free podcast. I'm your host, Christine, author, speaker, mentor, and guide. I'm here today to discuss living life after adversity, to discuss living life fully once again, a life of hope, peace, and resiliency, a life fully embodied. I utilize the lessons that I learned going through not one, but two primary cancers. I'm here today to guide you to your joy, turn your pain into power, and lead you back to yourself. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Live Free podcast. Today, we have Celene Dupuis on the podcast. Celine is a professional speaker, leadership coach, and CEO of Revamped Salon Company Incorporated. With over 20 years of experience, she helps individuals and businesses unlock their full potential through keynotes, intimate trainings, and one-on-one coaching. Passionate about personal growth, mindset mastery, and leadership, Celine empowers people to break through limitations, create success on their terms, and build a life filled with purpose and joy. Welcome, Celine, to the podcast. Buckle up. Let's get going. Welcome, Celine, to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I'm looking so forward to our conversation. Where in the world are you tuning in from?
The biggest tongue twister in Canada. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Something we've all mastered.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for tuning in and taking the time out of your day to connect with us. I want to start with, just a general question, which is, who is Celine and what has brought you to this moment today where we are having this conversation?
That's a great question. I feel like we're hitting it off with the existential questions right off the bat. Who is Celine? I'm a human being. I'm a 42-year-old mom. I am a business owner. I often feel like right now I have 12 staff. So I feel like I'm sometimes a mom to 12. So it feels like a big job. I'm a CEO. I'm a leadership coach as well. I help salon owners around North America basically create profitable businesses. So I wear many hats. I'm a facilitator and public speaker, but I'm like an adventure lover. I love anything that gives me a hit of dopamine, hiking, snowboarding, sports, swimming, being outside in nature, camping. Yeah, I just love to live life.
Yeah. And, you really do live it to the fullest. Like when I look at your social media, I'm always watching and I'm thinking, man, it's like you never question, should I? I feel like you just do it and you just enjoy it. And I think that's beautiful.
Well, my mom would like me to question it a little more often than I do. Uh, but I've just learned that's where I feel the most alive. So,
Yeah.
if I'm summiting a hike or, if I'm out in nature or I just look for those things that help me find peace and make me feel alive.
Beautiful, beautiful. So this lover of life was maybe not always this lover of life. Let's dive back a few years. What are some of the things that have brought you to this place where you begin to really take in every day?
Yeah, I think that's a really great place to start. Interesting that how you began that with lover of life, not always been a lover of life. I mean, for me, I had a pretty normal childhood. I think I've always been very vivacious, like ADHD. I was always dreaming big, living big. But I think for me, life changed around 18. And that really is when I think I've always loved to live a life, but what I found is that since 18, it's been ebb and flow. It's sometimes I'm loving living life, and sometimes, I'm not feeling amazing. I think it's been a journey, but for me, 18, my sister was killed in a car accident. Her boyfriend was driving and he was intoxicated, and she was 16, I was 18. And that's kind of when life, I grew up very quickly at an instance. For me, that's kind of like the moment. there was who I was, and then I've never been the same since. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad, but that's kind of when things changed. And I mean, I'm 42 now. I've been on like a 20-year, it hasn't let up in 20 years. I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into that, but I'm just a person who has dealt with extreme grief, loss, and tragedy. And, some days I'm doing great with it, some days I'm not, but it's my goal to just like live my best life despite whether I'm in the valley or whether I'm at the peak.
Mm. I really love that differentiation, whether you're in the valley or the peak. I'm sorry for your loss of
Thank
your
you.
sister. That would have been a really difficult thing to go through. How did that begin to change you? You said that you had to grow up really quickly.
Yeah.
How did that begin to change you in that moment?
I always think of it like finding out like there's no Santa Claus. Like you have like this level of innocence and how you think the world should go before that. And then once you've experienced grief, like I have friends, I'm 42, I have friends that still have never really experienced a
Mhm.
profound loss. And let me be clear, I'm very, very happy for them. I mean, why would you ever want to go down that road? But I also think that there's a level of empathy that you do not have. It's like you kind of maintain that like childlike innocence that like life is perfect, rose-colored glasses. I would choose that any day, but that's, not how it works. But what I would say is I don't like you just change when somebody dies. Like things just, life is never the same again. You're not that version of you ever again. And for me, like 18 years old, I came from a family of three. I was the middle child. My older sister's 2 years older. So she was 20. And really, like, watching, I guess, your mother, like, I mean, that's kind of that moment where it's like, I didn't have a mother anymore. And if she's
Mm.
listening to this, she'll probably have feelings. But, like, I mean, being honest, losing your child, I think, would be the most devastating thing that ever happened. Like, I mean, that first
Certainly.
Christmas, I mean, no, not expecting anything different, but I mean, no decorations, no tree, like things that don't really matter, right? But like, I'm 18, I'm still a kid for all extensive purposes. I just remember that first Christmas, like my mom was like chain smoking cigarettes. It was a different time. People smoked then. And like literally sitting on the couch that morning crying. And I walked into the living room. She's like, "Get me my checkbook, like Merry Christmas," and like wrote me a check, handed me the check, and was like, "Here you go." And I was like, "Okay, this is life now." Right.
Right.
And it's just like who my mom, like my old mom died at that
Mm.
moment. Like I lost my mom at that time. My dad was really, doing the dad role, which was trying to be strong for the family and going to work and providing. And while he was still grieving. And I mean, that was just kind of like the end. Really, that was like the end of my family as I knew it at that time. And
Mhm.
things were never really the same again.
Right. A really, really heavy loss, to lose your sister, to lose, um, your parents for all intents and purposes
Mhm.
at that time, and to be very young and having gone through all of that. I know for myself, I've also had a mother who's been in extreme grief and changed drastically, and the I think that even if you were 55 at the time, I think that there's something childlike that breaks when our parents kind of lose their way, right? And
Mhm.
their joy and their happiness. I'm curious because I don't see it in you. I'm curious with all the grief that you've had to endure, and like you say, there is so much more. Was that a decision that you made to not kind of change or lose yourself
Mm.
and to keep the joy as much as possible?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think I've always found it really interesting how, like, just studying people and, like, how come one person can seem to get through an extreme circumstance, but the next person, like, crumbles, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Is it nurture versus nature? Is it like what is it, right? And I think for me, I mean, I probably it's been so long. I'm sure I've went through stages of anger and all the different things that you go through. I mean, I even don't know how many years ago this was, but I had to have a moment where I actually reached out to my sister's boyfriend and I was like, I just needed to like forgive him and like I mean,
Wow.
really didn't know him, didn't have any contact, but I just always felt like his lot in life was a lot worse than mine. And like maybe an unpopular opinion, I don't know. When I watch the news and there's like a school shooting, it's like, yes, my heart is with the victims because I know what it and their families, because I know what it's like to lose a family member and have someone taken from you. Obviously different circumstances, but I know what that feels like. Like my the real sadness for me comes from like the perpetrators' families. Like to me, I'm just like, man, they have to live with that. And so that's always what I felt like, yes, it's awful that I've lost this loved one. It's my whole life, but like he has to also live with the guilt of causing that. And I just think
Mhm.
that is so much worse. And so I had a long time where I was very angry. And then I mean, I had made the decision just to reach out, I think just through a Facebook message. I just was, and I think it was, I don't know why, something was calling me to do it. I was just like, I don't know where you are in life, but I just want you to know that like I don't hold any ill feelings towards you, like, a drinking and driving, it was preventable, but it was still an accident. You didn't wake up that morning deciding to kill your girlfriend. You made a really stupid mistake. You
Mhm.
made bad choices, whatever it was that led you there. But I just was like, I just feel like I need you to know that I want you to live a happy life. And I know that it's probably not been a good one for you and it hasn't been easy. And I don't know how you've fared with that, but whether or not you needed to hear this, I needed to say it. So, I mean, for me, it was just a decision. Like you get to choose. You don't choose. It's like cause and effect. You don't choose the cards you're dealt, but you choose how you want to play the hand. And I always kind of felt like I owed it to my family. What do I want when I die? Like, do I
Mhm.
want my family to never move on, never forgive, be angry, live a crappy life? Like, not at all. Like, I want them to go on to live happy, full lives.
Yeah.
And how would I feel if I looked down and they were all like using me as their excuse for everything that happens in their life? So I just have made the decision to not let that be my excuse and to try and live the best life I possibly can because I think that that is my best way of honoring their memory.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm emotional listening and inspired by your ability to forgive. That is extraordinary. And I just want to compliment you on that. Yeah.
Not
And
always.
no, by no means, by no means. But one thing I'm really noticing, between, victimization and Celine, which is not that, is that I'm curious if perspective is the reason that, some people crumble and some people don't. Because I'm seeing a lot of perspective shifts there that
Mm,
you are having. What would I want my family to look like if I were looking down after my death, etc. Like I'm seeing a lot of perspectives,
mm,
and I'm curious if that's, maybe our magic formula for
yeah.
the difference between the person that crumbles and the person that doesn't.
Yeah, well, and it's curious that you picked up on that. Like I said, I'm a whatever you want to call it, for all intents purposes, self-development coach. I teach a program called Little Voice Mastery. There's a best-selling book written by Blair Singer called Little Voice Mastery, and it's basically like the idea of like there's 21 actual like kind of like cognitive behavior techniques to basically reframe, and like everyone has a little voice that goes on between their ears that tells them they don't have what they need to have to be who they want to be, that tells them that they're not enough, like whatever it is, like everybody has those little voices. This program basically teaches you how to, reshift. It really focuses on cause and effect mindset because a lot of that is trained behavior, right? Like, I mean, even gratitude practice. Let me be clear. I hate toxic positivity. I
Fine.
mean, I'm not going to start doing a gratitude practice and magically my life's going to be happy. Like, that's not how that works. However, things like gratitude, like that is a practice, and the practice comes from retraining your brain to see the good, not to see the bad. So, I can be like, my life sucks. My dad died. Like, fair, warranted, right? Or you can be like, that really sucks that that happened. Like, there's nothing I can say that makes that not suck. But also being able to see, like, well, through that process, look at all the people in my community that stepped up. Like, look at all the people that brought me meals. Look at all the people that sent me love and messages. Look at the people who came to clean my house and helped me with my business. And I mean, it's looking to see the positive even when there's negative around. So I do agree. I think mindset and perspective is everything. And I think that it's a practice that can be learned. Sometimes I'm great at it. Sometimes I suck at it. It's ebb and flow. Like you have to have gentleness. Like last night I sat in my bed and I cried like a lunatic. Like I think Machine Gun Kelly like came on the Drew Barrymore show. And I remember this clip and she's like, "How are you?" He's like, "Not good." And we need to normalize that it's okay when we're not good. Like just because you're a public figure or a personal development coach or a motivational speaker doesn't mean you're good all the time. And I think that when you have to put on that mask,
Mhm.
then when you're not, people are like, "See, it was all lies." But it's not all lies, it's ebb and flow. And you have to allow for both. Sometimes I'm graceful, sometimes I'm not. I'm both people.
Yeah. Oh, that is just so powerful. And from my seat, I'm thinking, because, I work in the counseling and coaching space
Right.
as well. I'm just like, yes, that's good. Let's do this. Let's shout it from the rooftops. Because it's so true that we live in a world where there's a lot of image. And the moment that if you're not really cognizant to share that you are a human, you can get those people who are kind of digging and hoping for you to share this moment of weakness so that they can keep going with it, right?
Yeah.
And so I love that your unapologeticness around, hey, I'm doing really good this day and really not that day, and it's completely nonlinear, and I'm good with that. The first words you used was I'm a human. And I think that that is so true because you are a human. You are a motivational speaker and you're human. And all of those things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned your dad passed away and if you're comfortable sharing, I know that there's probably someone going, "What? I thought it was her sister." Could you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, buckle up 'cause it just goes on from here. Yeah, so my sister passed away, I 2001, and then I think 2006, my dad passed away from brain cancer. He had about a 7-month battle, and, my dad was I am literally my father, like, everybody who knows our family personally, it's like inappropriate jokes, likes to make people laugh, loves to stir the pot. I have a lot of his personality traits. He ended up being diagnosed with a lung cancer. He had a hockey injury. Literally went to the doctor to have his shoulder x-rayed and they picked up a spot on his lung. A couple weeks later, we find out it's lung cancer and they, our Canadian healthcare, they just really were like, "We're just going to give you some chemo." And his surgeon was like, "Absolutely not. You're 52, you're healthy, you are fit. Like you need to leave. You need to leave Canada. I think this can be cured." So he went and had treatment at
Wow.
the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, Rochester, Minnesota, and they did cure him of it. He was there for about, I think, 4 or 6 months having treatment. Couple days before he left, they did a full body scan and there was no cancer in his entire body. And then 2 weeks later, he collapsed and had an episode, was dizzy, fell down, couldn't dial the phone, very like stroke like symptoms. And they realized that he went to the hospital. They did a scan and he had 12 tumors in his brain. Literally within 2 weeks, his brain was littered with tumors, and he died a few days later. So it just was it was very quick and fast. He didn't suffer, but very, very big. Like that for me is like the biggest loss that I have experienced for sure.
I'm so sorry. That is, as you say, you're just like your dad, and it sounds like you had a really special connection with him.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, yeah, he just was very real. I think I get that from him. He came from a very, very challenging family that had a lot of, there was different things that they had to overcome in those times. Both of his parents struggled with mental health and just, came from a very different upbringing than I had the privilege of coming from and was able to, break cycles and move forward, but still maintain, his sense of humor and his realness about, his experiences. He came from a very, very poor family. Like, I mean, like so poor, like, walking uphill both ways, carrying your horse. Like they all shared bath water, one outfit a year. I mean, I think one thing for me that sticks out is a story he told about really like being in love with he was in love with this girl that he went to high school with and just really wanted to date her. she felt the same way, but was like, "I can't date you. You're a Dupuis." Like, basically,
Oh.
like, "Your family's trash. We can't date you." And so, I mean, he overcame a lot, ended up being a very successful entrepreneur. But even still, like 20 years after his death, his employees still reach out and were like, "Your dad made such a difference in my life." He could give me shit in the break room, but then like wrap his arms around me and like build me up, like, back or sorry, in the office, but then in the break room, lift me up and like, he did what he needed to do, and he was honest enough that he would tell you what you maybe didn't want to hear to help you grow, but then he would be your cheerleader and help you better your life. And I think he left a really great legacy because he wasn't fake. He never forgot where he came from.
Mm. And I see that in you. Really see, so you really honor him by a lot of the attributes that you've just said. I think are very close to how you act in business and move in business and move as a person through life. What a beautiful way to honor your father and the passing that
Yeah.
you've had to endure.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. So now you've lost your sister, you've lost your father. At that point, do you feel that your perspective faltered? Or were you able to continue to find kind of the silver linings and the ways that you could move forward in life?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think, like, if I'm being super real, I
Mhm.
think I would say yes. I feel like I did. However, I really realized later when I mean, maybe 5, 6 years ago, I really started doing like work on myself. And I think what I realized through actually facing that was like, I mean, I just kind of put it all in a box and like shut the lid, like really.
Mm,
Um,
fine.
and I think like, I mean, the real story behind that, my mom has a nonprofit called Danae's Song after my sister. And for the first couple years, she did this for like 15 years, but she would travel around and speak all across North America, to students about drinking and driving and the dangers. And so she has this amazing presentation she does. I was part of that for the first 2 years, so I traveled with her, and I mean, it was a presentation. You'd go into a high school and like the football team would leave like weeping, like, because it was so real, because this kid who died was their age, and she was smart and she was popular and she was pretty and she was just like them. And we know when we're young, we think it'll never happen to us. And I mean, my mom takes you on the journey of like what it's like to, open the bag of clothing that the paramedics cut off her body. There's still glass in the bag. She shows the clothes, and she's showing the car. And like, we had like the Mothers Against Drunk Driving presentations, or the cops came and did presentations, and like they were great, but they weren't like, this was like, this is one of you, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna take you through. And the whole story is like, what's your mother gonna do, if she has to pick up the bloody clothes from that bag? And like, what is it gonna look like? Our family, walked my sister's body to the operating room door, where we had to say goodbye. We donated her organs. And it's like my mom had said to the nurses, like, I need to be in the room when you unplug her. Like, this is my baby. I need to hold her when her heart stops beating. And they're like, you can't do that. Like, you're donating organs. Never have I seen, we know like nurses, doctors, what they endure, they have to shut off. They're like me, they have to put it in the box,
Yeah.
right? And like they were just weeping at the doors of this room while we all said like our final goodbyes. I mean, the nurse, like one of the nurses, they literally like said, I'll do that for you, Cheryl, who's my mom." And like literally they're like, we unplugged her, like we held her, we all waited until she stopped breathing and honored her while she left this earth, and then we continued on. And so just, like just being part of that story and sharing that message, to hundreds of people. In fact, when my sister was in the hospital, hundreds of people started coming to the hospital, teenagers. They wanted to say goodbye. And like I led groups of 10, I probably led about 20 groups of about 10 kids at a time into her hospital room, where they like gathered around her bed and said, like, it was crazy. Like, if I was a parent, I would have been like, screw off. Like, this is our
Yeah.
time. But my mom just felt like these kids needed to have that opportunity, whether they were her best friend or not. So that's just where my mom's heart went. So, I mean, we've seen kids really mourn this on a deep level. And Obviously, with that comes press. I mean, I used to get interviewed all the time by the press. And what I started to notice is the only thing they'd put on the news is when people would cry. And
Mhm.
I'm not really like a cry in public kind of person. Like that's just I just don't really work like that. I was being interviewed. I was 19 being interviewed and this woman said like describe your sister. So was describing her in present tense. And for me this was like my largest life altering moment. I'm describing her in present tense. Danae is. And she stopped me and said, I don't know if you realize, but you're speaking about your sister in present tense, but like she's gone. Like, how does that make you feel? It was like pause for dramatic effect, right? And I didn't realize I was doing this. And like at that moment, I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never felt anything like it. It was like the emotion started at my toes. And like when you do like a body scan meditation, like that's how I would describe it. I felt it come up from it, like it started through my toes, went up through my feet, went up through my legs to my knees, up like through my upper legs to my thigh, then up into my stomach, like until it came to my throat. And it was like, now you start to feel the feelings like when you're going to cry, like
Mhm.
prickly feeling in my throat. I can feel my eyes starting to sting. And I literally like shut it down. I was like, wall is up. Never again. Like I am not giving this woman the satisfaction of like exploiting like my dead sister so she can make some news headlines tonight. Like screw you. And I was just like, I shut down. I was like, I will never give anybody the pleasure of that ever again. And so, I mean, without realizing what I was doing, I put up a wall that day. And like, I'm still working at taking that down. It was there to protect me, but I
Of
mean,
course.
eventually it just didn't serve me anymore. So, I mean, that's a
Mm,
very long answer to your question, but like, that's
mm.
kind of the journey of how. So, yes, I feel like I would pull out the pockets of joy along the journey, but not realizing until maybe like 6, 7 years ago that like I was actually dolling out a lot of my feelings and compartmentalizing it and not really allowing people to really see who I was just because I had this protective wall that I put up.
Okay. Okay. I'm curious. We fast forward to 7 years forward and you realize this wall is there. How do you look back on your past years, starting from the from 18 on? How do you look back on your past years and kind of consider your happiness? Was it genuine happiness, do you feel? Or do you feel that you began genuine happiness after dismantling the wall?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm still working on genuine happiness. Like, I speak a lot about finding pockets of joy and living
Mm,
in the and. And I think, yeah, if I look back, sure, I had moments of genuine happiness. And I wasn't walking through life like faking everything, certainly. But what I would say is that most of the time when people meet me, like, I'm very direct. If there's any Enneagram people out there, I'm an Enneagram type 3. Like, I'm the achiever. My number one fear is like how I look to other people, not being successful. Like, I mean, those are they're strengths and weaknesses. So
sure.
they can do me very well and they can serve me very poorly. It depends on the day. But I think for me, it's like, when people get to know me, it's like my whole life, it's like you're intimidated. It's either like, oh, you're so strong and inspiring, or you're very intimidating. And so I think a lot of people just don't really, unless you actually move into a space where I can feel really safe around you. Cause I mean, I've been exploited. It's been exploited. So I think safety for me in personal relationships, safety in friendships, safety in most areas of my life. Like, you're not going to get to see the real me unless I really feel safe. And I feel like
Mm,
there's very few people that actually, you'll see me, but you're going to see different layers of me.
mhm.
So I feel like everything was genuine, but it was very much like I'm having more pockets of joy now, more moments where I feel like I can genuinely be happy. This is ludicrous, but I have like a weird obsession for Justin Bieber. It's like a thing. It's almost turned into a joke. I mean, I've taken a cardboard cutout of him, life size, all around New York City. That's a story for another day. But I remember going to his concert and, like, I would be the person, like, in a like, even for me to, like, get up, like, unless I have 2 drinks, for me to, like, get up, dance, and just genuinely, like, have like, the saying, "Dance like no one's watching," I always know someone's watching. Like,
Fine.
that's not how I feel about life. I'm like, "Someone's always watching." But I remember being at that concert and being like, "Oh my gosh, this is the closest to, like, real joy I've ever felt." Like, for me, that's why I chase these dopamine things like summiting a mountain because like I actually feel alive. Like there are very few things that I do and very few places where I just can feel that deep sense of like this is really me. And so I feel like that's a very difficult thing for me to bring out and I'm working more and more on trying to bring that into my daily life all the time.
Mhm, mhm. Okay. And I know in your story, I've heard it before, there are so many more layers. There are so many more stories just as impactful as, the loss of your sister and your father, and you've had, thing after thing after thing. Now, if a person is feeling kind of like it's relentless, like this is just never ending, like
Mhm.
nothing's ever life is just not kind. What might be something that you could offer that person to just really get into a calmer, happier place? Because I know that it can feel really relentless for a lot of people. And I know someone listening is thinking, oh, yeah, I know, I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think and what I would say is, I mean, I'm going through like I'm definitely in another valley right now. Like I've got some big life changes happening and my aunt just passed away and I'm going through some changes in my personal life and I mean like my aunt was like my second mother. Like that is the
Oh,
second probably the second most significant loss I've ever faced as well and
I'm
what I would
sorry.
say is like, I don't know what to really tell a person other than it's just like one foot in front of the other. What I would say is like you have to do things to take care of you. I believe there's lots of different modalities. And I mean, I would say in the last 6 years, like I never really did therapy or counseling before. And I think there's lots of different forms. I'm not a huge necessary I like talk therapy because I love to talk and I like to tell my story. But like for me, the most beneficial like modalities, it's like find something that works for you. For me, doing different types of therapies, like there's rapid eye movement therapy has been really
Mhm.
beneficial for me. Like energetically, like things like clearing energy, Reiki, like I mean, I'm spiritual and I'm a bit woohoo and I like some science based things. I do EFT, which is emotional freedom technique. That's all science based. You're tapping on meridian points on your body to help regulate your nervous system. I mean, my body's been in fight. There's like, fight or flight. It has like, I think a saber-toothed tiger is chasing me 24/7 and it's shown up in my body. And I think what a lot of people don't recognize and realize is like anxiety, stress, trauma. Um, it's like, first of all, there's the feeling piece to it. So, like the emotion that you're feeling, there's the mental, so the voice, so what it's telling you. And then the third piece is the somatic. It's your body. It's going to physically show up. And so for me, I truly believe, I mean, I've been dealing with endometriosis for 7 years. I've had 2 surgeries, had a hysterectomy. I mean, it's like a debilitating disease. I
Certainly.
spent 31 days straight in bed at one point where I mean, the only way to not be in pain was to take oxycodone and sit in a bathtub for 6 hours a day. So I would say, like, that's where it showed up in my body, right? And
Mhm.
until I started taking care of the thoughts, identifying what emotion am I feeling and where's it showing up? Like, when I have anxiety, it shows up in my chest, and so much so that some of the practitioners I've been working with recently are like, "You're not breathing." Like, I'm like, "I realized that." People started telling me, "You're holding your breath." Like, I actually don't breathe. And I said to her, "Well, how do you even know that?" And she said, "Well, your ribs have changed shape." This is weird. I thought I call them my 45s. I've taken care of my body. I've lost weight. I mean, I've lost 40 pounds in the last year. because
Congratulations.
I've had surgery. I'm not chronically in bed all the time anymore. I'm exercising, eating healthy, all the things. And I started noticing under my ribs, like I was a little bit like concave, like a 45-degree angle. I'm like, "Ooh, I'm getting so fit. Look at this 40." It's not because I'm getting fit. My ribs actually, your ribs change shape when you don't breathe. And so my ribs literally change shape and they stick out in my body, creating a new shape in my silhouette because I am literally not breathing from anxiety. So, like, we hold on to the stress, the trauma, the anxiety. And if you're not doing things to recognize that, release that, I mean, it can cause a whole slew of things in your body. So, whether that's too woohoo for you or not, I mean, it's all interconnected, all of it. So, to me, you can't just do like a talk therapy. Like, what are you doing to like deal with it's the emotion, the thoughts, and the body, all three together.
Yes, and I that is wild how it's affected you physically. The I love that the emotions, the thoughts, and the body. I think often when someone is in extreme grief or when they are in fight or flight, they tend to only consider the emotions. They tend to only consider that. And I think this kind of three-part integrative model is truly the only way to begin to heal. And it sounds like you've really gotten a lot of clarity on that as well throughout the years. I think that I want to pause on the thoughts because we've talked a lot about perspective throughout this conversation. And I really there's something about those thoughts that I think can carry a person from victimhood, from woe is me, poor me, into a place where, I am powerful enough to deal with this. I am convicted enough to deal with this. I have enough tenacity to deal with this. And that's all thoughts. When you become the victim of your oppressor, which in your case has many faces, that generally becomes the time when that person falls victim. Their body compresses, their emotions depress. All of these things come
Mhm.
down. And so I really want to put emphasis on thoughts because I think that's something that you've put a ton of time into. And this woman who stands up on stage and motivational speaks and rises other salon owners up and businesses and etc. That's someone who's mastered thoughts. Does that resonate with you?
It does. What I would say that's interesting is so again, it's particularly interesting to me because the course that I teach is Little Voice Mastery. And the first thing I say, like I actually just before this call just wrapped up, it's a 6-week program, just wrapped up with somebody I was working with. And like at the beginning of the 6 weeks, it's like, we set goals. Like, what do you want to achieve? Like, it's more than just like talking about your thoughts. Like, we literally set out like what are your goals in your with your finances, with your business, with your personal, with your like and your family, like your personal family relationships. And like she started out being so full of anxiety about like stepping away from her business and like to spend time with her family. She's like literally like on the boat at the lake and it's like if no one's there to answer the phone, I'm going to pick up like they redirect the phone calls to me. My kids like wakeboarding and I'm like answering the phone. And like it was like crippling to like, today we talked about her wins and it's like her team is creating systems. Like she's stepped out for like a 2-week vacation. But so the very first day, I'm like, listen, the course is called Little Voice Mastery, but like this is not the little voice exorcism. So I have not mastered it at all. And I never will. This is a lifelong process. They say, if you've ever read the book Outliers, it's a fantastic book. But Outliers, it's like 10,000 hours to become a master at something. And I mean, we've all definitely probably had shitty thoughts about ourselves for 10,000 hours. So we're all masters at that. But
Mm,
like the
truly.
reality is that it's learning how to actually interrupt the thoughts and reframe them.
Mm,
When I'm my most healthiest version, it's easy to do that, right? It's easy to like, the things I'm looking for are like, when people say like, I can't do that. It's like, we want to reframe that. Like, I can't do that. Or it's like, I'm bad with money. It's like, even reframing that to be like, I'm not great with money yet. Like it holds a different power. But like when I'm not in a right frame of mind, you better believe I'm like, I'm not enough, nobody loves me, like whatever it is your little little voices tell you. I mean,
Mhm.
my little voice, I have no problem saying it. It's definitely you're not enough. That's been my little voice. And I'm so confident. People are like, really? I'm like, well, yeah, I'm confident in who I am and what I do. My little voices don't hold me back from achieving, but like it's like literally like a mental war between my ears that's sometimes minute to minute, right?
Mm.
And that's the reality of it. So no, I haven't mastered it, but when you learn like techniques, you learn how to reframe, um, and it ebbs and flows. Like the things that I really believe that I need to do to be my best self. The book, The Morning Miracle, talks about having a savers routine. And it's like having a morning routine every day. And it's like, when I'm doing my gratitude, I'm doing my affirmations. I suck at meditating. But even if I can do like 2 minutes, I do like 2 minute, like a 2 minute tapping meditation. And I'm like, I feel like I've done something. Like I just did a 12-minute one yesterday, and I swear I can do it, but it's tough
Mhm.
for me. But like
Fine.
something is better than nothing,
Yeah.
right? And so like and when I'm not healthy, those are the first things I cut out. And then I'm at my worst. So I think it's like you're going to fall off the horse, but now I would say I know what I need and I can get back up quicker.
Mm.
Whereas before it might have taken me a 4-month spiral. Now it's like, okay, I'm going to allow myself to spiral for a couple days, but what's one thing I could do? Could I go outside today? Now, could I add back in my gratitude in the morning? Could I do a tapping meditation? Like sometimes it feels like we have to do all the things, right?
Mm.
But I think it's just the more that you work on yourself, it's not that things are going to be perfect. Because I bet if we all were in Tony Robbins' living room, we'd be like, wow, that guy's screwed up. Like my most favorite personal development coaches, the only thing that makes them different than any of us is nothing. Like they fall off the horse too. And to me, the ones that I admire the most are the ones that talk about that. Because I think when you see behind the curtain, a lot of them are really disappointing, like inspiring people. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen Jay Shetty. It's like amazing, inspiring individual. And then you see like, it's like Jay Shetty plagiarizes, and it's like he's getting his idea. Did he plagiarize or is he inspired by someone else's thoughts? But
Yeah,
they're held
fine.
to a different standard because they're quote unquote like in the public, their personal development. So they should have it all together. Like, do you think
Mhm.
marriage counselors don't have problems in their marriage? Or do you think hopefully they utilize the tools they teach to like, keep working on it? No one's perfect.
Mhm. Oh, I couldn't have said it better myself. I agree completely. One thing I once said, and I'm curious if this would resonate with you, was I think that the only difference between somebody who is healed, because there's no such thing as finished, someone who's healed, the D on the end probably nicks that, and someone who has never done any inner work is maybe the amount of compassion that they have while they're in the valley, compassion for themselves to go through the journey, and therefore it cuts down the time that they're in that valley because they're allowing themselves to be in the deepest, darkest, saddest spaces, to be super, awful and sad for themselves and all of those sorts of things intentionally, because they realize that, hey, that's part of human nature, and therefore they come out of that valley just maybe a hair quicker than maybe someone who's never done any self-work.
Yeah. And the word for me that resonates, and I took a course called Break Free Mind. Someone local in Saskatoon named Carla Unger. She's a EFT coach. My EFT coach, she's fantastic. But I took a course with her, and I think my biggest takeaway was like, okay, so the first thing we do is like identify what we're feeling. We often look for, well, why am I feeling that? Or where is that coming from? But one of the things, where's that showing up in my body? But the thing that we're always missing, I shouldn't say always. The thing that most of us, I think, have the biggest challenge with is being gentle with ourselves, right? And allowing ourselves to have the compassion and gentleness. It's like, well, I should have known better. I should have done this. One of the things that we teach in my course is to celebrate all wins. The reason why, like, we're really bad at celebrating our wins. We feel like it's bragging. We feel like we shouldn't do it. Other people will think we're conceited. But what happens when you don't take time to celebrate is like you're working all the time and you never celebrate the good things that happen. So when you celebrate, you actually, and like think little kids, like when you're teaching a kid to potty train, I was really bad at that. And if you've never had kids, I mean, if you've seen a kid learning to potty train, what you know is that it's a tumultuous time, right? And it's
Fine.
like it's not an easy task, and so, you see parents and they, like, have massive celebrations because their kid peed on the potty, and it's like, okay, like, I mean, people are peeing on the potty all day long. Is it that big of a deal? But, like, why do we make such a massive deal out of it? Because it gets the kid excited, it builds momentum, and they wanna keep going, do it again, look at the positive reinforcement. So if we don't take time to be gentle and celebrate ourselves for, maybe it's just celebrating yourself for getting out of bed, but
And
like celebrating all wins, no matter how small, we will lose momentum and we will not achieve as much because it's hard to keep that momentum going.
I love that. I love that. Okay. I feel like there's a whole list here of things that we can do, and it might even just take a second listen, to get through them. But thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, Celine, because I feel like I've certainly gained quite a few different things. Feel into your body, remember the most importantly the emotions, thoughts, and body in your healing
Mhm.
journey. What else did we talk about? I'm trying to kind of surmise some of these. Have compassion, celebrate your wins. Is there anything I'm missing?
Now, I think the biggest thing I would just say is that, like, nobody's really 100% truly healed. Like,
Yeah,
I just don't buy into that. I think
fine.
that like, just remember that going through, like, if that's your goal is to like be healed, like, it's like saying my goal is to be happy. Well, what the hell is happy mean, right? So like your healed version might look very different than my healed version. And what
Mhm.
would happen if we just allowed ourselves to just be and like to just be like whatever version of healed looks like my version 10 years ago of who I was. I thought I was healed. It's very different than my version today because I know so much more now. So I
Mm,
would say like, if you're in the thick of it and you're just like I don't even know how I can put one more foot forward, like what I would say is just like, find those small pockets. Like, what do you do that makes you feel the most alive? And
mm,
start to try and do that more. Right? And like maybe that's getting outside, maybe that's putting your feet in the ground, maybe that's, going on a hike, maybe that's spending time with a loved one, having a coffee with a friend. Like I don't know what it is, but like whatever that is, no matter how small or big, start trying to do more of that. And then the other thing I would say is like, start with that and then start challenging yourself to live in the and. Like, get rid of your expectations. So, like, why can't you be happy and sad? Like, Christmas will never not be a sad time for me. Like, half my family's dead, if I can be blunt. When people are like, why don't you like Christmas? I'm like, screw you. It's not that I don't like Christmas, it's that I don't give a shit about how many presents I should buy or putting up the perfect tree. If I want, I do have a perfect tree, by the way. The things that I want to do, I will do.
yeah.
Right? But it's not about that. So, like, why can't I go into a Christmas season and feel some joy and some sadness and
Mhm.
normalize that you can feel both at once? And that's what I mean by living in the and. It's not one or the other. You can live in the and work just towards finding those small pockets of joy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing all of your knowledge. And I know that anyone walking away from this conversation is probably like wide-eyed, like, "Oh my gosh, this woman knows so much." Tell me more about how people can connect with you, potentially, this 6-week program, just different ways that you might be able to support other people.
Yeah. So again, my Instagram, I'm sure that'll be linked somewhere in here.
Certainly.
All of my information is there through my website. It's www.celenedupuis.com. There I have a little bit about, again, I mean, I'm a salon owner, so I'm coaching. Like, I mean, I do this kind of coaching every day with my employees that work with me. But this 6-week Little Voice Mastery program, again, information about that can be found on my website. I'm also again a public speaker. I do anything like I do a lot of stuff for businesses, organizations. I mean, I specialize in leadership and culture. But I mean, if you have an organization that you just need help with people and their mindset, or you can work with me individually as well. But my passion really is to basically help people help people tap into parts of themselves they didn't even know were possible. And that, I feel like that's my life goal and that's my mission, because I grew up not, probably because that's my little voice. I grew up not feeling like I was enough. So I want you to be able to achieve things you didn't even know you could achieve. And that's just my lifelong mission.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on the podcast, taking time through your day to share your knowledge. Yeah, I just look forward to continuing to connect.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this last episode, then consider rating the podcast. Those few seconds that it takes makes a huge difference. Also, if you are interested in mentorship, transformational programs, or reading the book Unbroken, Rising Above, Thriving Within, then take a look at the show notes for all the resources and links. Always remember, you can overcome any obstacle. Let's do this together.